Welcome back, everybody. I hope you're all amazing. On today's video, we are checking out the ATA flanger from Australia's own PastFx. This is, I guess, their modern reinterpretation of the classic ATA flanger. It is a lot more compact. It actually has some features that the original doesn't have, but it stays true to so many things that made the original a classic. Like a lot of the PastFx stuff, it's the attention to detail that you get with a small builder where they can go and source chips that are long out of production, and they can buy vintage units and actually spend the time analyzing what makes them great while kind of improving on them and adding some new features. So aside from the size, this has a few extra little goodies on here. You've got a level control that's kind of tucked away here and a blend control on the side. You can connect an expression pedal on here. It is 18 volts powered like their elastic mattress pedal. Whenever I think of the ATA flanger, I think of Pat Travers and Pat Thrall. So let's start with a little homage to one of my favorite Pat Travers tracks, and then we will go through this control by control and see what sort of tones we can pull out of it. It's going to get pretty wild and crazy in here. Let's go. There's a lot of knobs on this pedal, and if you're used to your classic 3 or 4 knob flanger from companies like Boss or Electro Harmonics, it can seem a little overwhelming. So what we're going to do is we're going to simplify everything for now. I'll very briefly explain what each control does, but then I want you to focus on a few critical controls when we get started. You've got range and speed in the center and top right. These are going to be your classic depth and speed or rate controls on any modulation device. Then over here, you've got enhance, which is your feedback control. The little switch in the middle selects between positive and negative feedback. So with those three, pretty standard flanger stuff. Then we've got the manual control over here. I've turned it all the way down, so don't worry about it for now. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We've also got a blend control, which when it's cranked all the way up, gives you 50-50 wet dry. You can decrease that control to decrease the amount of wet signal in there. It doesn't go all the way down to 0 though. So we'll just leave that at 50-50 for now. Again, you can forget about these two controls. And then something unique to the original ATA flanger was the built-in noise gate, essentially to cut down on the extra noise that the pedal is adding in there. So you've got a threshold control. With it cranked all the way up, it's basically inactive. So forget about that for now. And we've got a pretty classic 3-knob flanger on here with the ability to have positive or negative feedback. With enhance all the way down and the range and speed at noon, you've got a pretty sweet chorus style sound. I'll let you hear the clean tone on this DGT. I've got the coil split on it and I'm in the middle position. You know, I have to play this chord. So even if we just restrict our attention to those two knobs, this sounds fantastic. It's everything you would want out of an analog modulation pedal. It's warm, it's shimmery, it's gooey and delicious. PastFx always deliver with these kind of things. Let's add some of the enhanced control on here now, and I will slowly bring it up and then switch between positive and negative feedback modes on here so you can hear the difference in character there. As we get the enhanced control really high, this is going to get super wild. It is one thing the originals are known for. They can do those kind of spaceship sci-fi noises on there, and this definitely does not disappoint. What I like about that is it can get super silly sounding, but it's still controllable. Speaking of control, there is a noise gate in here that you can control with the threshold parameter on here. So you can do some pretty interesting things where you essentially have this envelope controlled flanger where the envelope, instead of controlling the rate of the flanger, is controlling whether the flanger is on or off. So let's just maybe turn this down a little bit, and I'll go to that kind of pseudo Leslie thing we had going on. So what do I have? Enhance at noon, as you can see there. The rate I will keep nice and fast, but the range quite low. So with the threshold all the way up, this is the sound we have. And then, of course, I've got the ability to turn the wet mix down on that as well with the blend control. If I bring that down to about halfway, I've got this pretty expressive flanger going on. Maybe let's turn the rate up and bring the overall speed down a little bit more feedback on that. I'll go to negative feedback as well. So with the blend all the way at the bottom of the range and with the threshold up, you can still hear a little bit of wet effect. I should have mentioned earlier as well, there is a level control over here if you find this is maybe boosting your signal a little bit too much. I've found, for my personal taste, I like it with the blend control pretty much all the way up and the level control all the way up as well. Let's talk about the manual control on here and the way it interacts with the range control. If you're familiar with the PastFx Elastic Mattress or the original Electric Mistress, they have a mode on there kind of called filter matrix mode. So think of it as turning this control all the way down kicks in filter matrix mode, and you can use the manual control to essentially place yourself somewhere in the flanger sweep. This, with the threshold control, is really interesting. I'll turn the threshold up for now, and we'll just play around with the manual flanging on there. You can use this to kind of give yourself like a kind of fixed EQ boost. It's not really a fixed EQ boost, but it kind of sounds like it, or like a cocked wah style tone on there. So let's just start out with the controls where they are. I'll add a little bit more feedback on there because I think that adds a lot of character. And I'll just turn the manual control up. Let's hear that. That's pretty wild. I want to try that kind of manual notched flanger thing with ridiculous amounts of distortion and a little bit of delay on the back end as well. Kind of using this for a solo enhancer. And you could hear on there that with the enhance control around noon or lower, it is giving you that pseudo cocked wah thing. It's its own thing. It's a fixed flanger. I really, really like that. But with enhance all the way up, and depending on the setting of positive or negative feedback, you can almost get like sitar style settings on there. I guess it's acting like a resonator style control on there. Very, very interesting. Let's hear the dirty sound, and then let's kick this in, and then I'll also just let you hear some traditional flanger sounds out of it. But this is so cool. This is so wild, so unique to this particular flanger style. I really do need to learn how to play Bark at the Moon properly one day, but that's the vibe on there. All importantly for me as well, it cops that kind of Pat Travers band ADA flanger sound that I've been chasing for so long. What I like about this is it's not an electric mistress or the elastic mattress that PastFx make. That thing is so good at the really pretty kind of Andy Summers, David Gilmour, Alex Lifeson chorus tones. This has a different attitude about it. This can get super nasty, but in a controlled way. To me, if you think of the elastic mattress at one end of the spectrum, and you think of the kind of EVH style flanger sound, the full-on jet plane takeoff sound, this isn't anywhere in between those. It's like its own little vertex of flanging, and they probably make some kind of triangle where all other flangers sit. I have no idea if that's a good analogy at all, but it's got its own thing going on there. I like the overall straight up flanger character of it, but the wild noises on this are what really makes it its own thing. And I think if you're into those kind of crazy experimental sounds, this is probably the flanger to get if you're going to get a flanger. I should have mentioned as well, there's this control jack on the side so you can connect an expression pedal to play around with the manual control on there, but hopefully that made sense, talking about the manual flanging versus the manual all the way down and just using the range control. Of course, you can play around with both of them in there and the way they interact on there. If you don't care about how it works and just the fact that it sounds good, that's also one way to go about it as well. Like anything PastFx, I really respect that they have not just cloned the original, they have taken the spirit of the original and they have added new features. They've made it more usable. You know, it's so much smaller than an original ADA flanger. And even though this has expensive chips in it, which are hard to get nowadays, compared to finding an original or even trying to get one of the reissues, which aren't made anymore, this is priced so well. So that's it from the ATA flanger from PastFx. I'm so happy that they have made this pedal, and I think if you're a flanger freak or you just like juicy sounding modulation, you should probably take the time to check this one out. Again, a big shout out to Verley at PastFx for letting me borrow this one. This one is going back. They also lent me a bunch of really cool vintage pedals, which you'll be seeing over the next couple of weeks. I can't wait. Until next time, thanks so much for watching. More information in the video description, and I'll see you all next time. Let's do some less wild sounds with this to play you all out with. So, I don't know. Here's a riff you may recognize.